The history of the United States is one of conflict, from its inception to the ongoing struggles faced by its native inhabitants. One of the earliest and most significant conflicts that shaped the course of U.S. history was the battle between the settlers and the Native American tribes. This conflict began long before the Revolution and continued long after, setting the stage for the formation of the nation. The clash between two vastly different cultures, the European settlers with their desire for expansion, and the indigenous peoples who had lived on these lands for thousands of years, was inevitable. Let's delve into the initial stages of this conflict, the major battles, and the policies that would forever alter the relationship between the United States and its native population. Before the conflict fully erupted, the lands of what would become the United States were contested territories. The region that became the Northwest Territory, modern-day Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, was initially under French control, but passed to Great Britain after the French and Indian War, part of the larger 7 Years' War. However, the British presence was sparse. Forts and small settlements existed, but the Native American tribes in the area remained the dominant force, living and thriving in their ancestral lands. This ambiguous ownership situation left much room for tension between the European settlers and the native populations, especially as British colonists began to push westward. The treaties and boundaries set during this period were confusing, often disregarding the wishes and sovereignty of the native peoples. As settlers from Europe flooded into the area, the Native American tribes, who had deep spiritual, economic, and cultural connections to the land, began to feel increasingly threatened by this influx. In the wake of the French and Indian War, many Native American tribes, particularly in the Great Lakes region, found themselves in a precarious position. The British government, looking to consolidate control over the region, began imposing new policies that further alienated the native tribes. In 1763, Chief Pontiac, a leader of the Ottawa tribe, united several tribes in the Great Lakes area to resist British rule. Known as Pontiac's Rebellion, this conflict saw Native Americans attacking British forts and settlements, with notable victories such as the capture of Fort Detroit and the siege of Fort Pitt. While the rebellion was eventually quelled by the British, it was a pivotal moment in Native American resistance, signaling the beginning of a long struggle to protect their lands and way of life from European encroachment. The British response to the rebellion included the Proclamation of 1763, which attempted to stabilize relations by limiting colonial expansion into native territories, but this only further alienated settlers. In response to the violent uprisings led by Pontiac, the British government issued the Proclamation of 1763. This decree forbade settlers from moving west of the Appalachian Mountains, aiming to prevent further conflicts with the Native American tribes. However, the proclamation angered colonists who had hoped to expand westward following the end of the French and Indian War. The settlers viewed the proclamation as a direct barrier to their prosperity, and it fueled resentment towards British authority. The colonists were not only frustrated with the proclamation itself, but also with the lack of enforcement, as illegal settlements continued to spring up across the frontier. As tensions grew between Britain and its American colonies, many Native American tribes saw the brewing revolution as an opportunity to defend their territories. While the American colonies sought independence from Britain, Native American tribes were mostly concerned with their own survival in the face of an ever-expanding frontier. Many tribes, including the Iroquois Confederacy, sided with the British, hoping that a British victory would prevent further American encroachment on their lands. This alliance had significant consequences, as it led to bloody battles between American militias and Native American warriors allied with the British. The American Revolution brought about a series of atrocities on both sides, with frontier massacres and retaliatory strikes that would only deepen the animosity between settlers and Native Americans. After the Revolution, the newly formed United States began its westward expansion. With the promise of new land, settlers flooded into areas once controlled by Native American tribes. In response, various tribes, including the Shawnee, Miami, and others, united to form the Northwest Confederacy in an effort to protect their territories. This confederacy became a formidable force, fighting against American settlers and the U.S. Army in a series of bloody skirmishes. The resistance, led by leaders like Blue Jacket and Little Turtle, who fiercely defended their land and way of life, lasted for years. However, the U.S. government, determined to secure the frontier, continued to press forward. Tensions reached a boiling point, and armed conflict became inevitable.